Okay, so now this tank isn't the Blackwater Aquarium anymore. I'm going to change its name to the Office Aquarium, which is a little bit cringe, you know, it's a little bit it's not really what I'd call it, but at the end of the day that's what it is, because it's in a room where my computer is. I'm recording this video and the tank's behind me, so it is an office aquarium. I could have called it the 60 litre aquarium, because I think it's around 60 litres, but you know, I've had one of those in the past. I've got another 60 litre tank, so to not confuse them, I think I'm just going to call it the office aquarium. But obviously it used to be the Blackwater Aquarium until in the last video I changed it back. Upon changing it back to clear water, I did wonder why I've still got it set up this way, with this sort of substrate. So, you know, I've got like the pond like substrate, and now that it's no longer Blackwater, I thought I could really plant it out. I could change the substrate and I could plant it out. And then I was thinking back to the other tank that was there. This is a different tank that's in the same spot, different stand. I had this before the Blackwater Aquarium, and I grew out a carpet of S-Repens. This is just old footage I have of that tank with the S-Repens carpet. Now don't get me wrong, this carpet took a long time to get it to look like this. I had to trim it down a lot of times. I had to do a lot to get it looking this good. So I don't really want to do an S-Repens carpet again. One, because I've already done it, and two, because it took a lot of work to get it to look like that. Every weekend I was getting in there with the scissors and just trimming it all, making sure that it wasn't growing too long and that it was spreading. And to make it spread, you have to keep trimming the top leaves. And it took about 6 months to get it to look like this from just a few trimmings, but I've done videos on this. But yeah, I was thinking about this tank and how nice it looked, because it does look nice. So yeah, I thought I want something like this again. A lot of plants, just a real, you know, especially as it's an office aquarium, I wanted it to look real nice, you know, like a piece of art, rather than how it currently looked. So the next day, without hesitation, if I get an idea in my head and I like the idea, I have to do it straight away. So the next day is the weekend. I thought, right, let's just do it. Let's just revamp the aquarium, which basically means removing all of this substrate, because I wasn't keen on the substrate anymore. It's very nice, but it's like pebbles. It's not fine enough to create a carpet, because what I want to do, I want to carpet the tank again. I don't use CO2 or anything like that, so I have to use easy to grow aquarium plants to carpet. You know, I'm not going to make one of these fancy Japanese aquariums. They basically use like Monte Carlo. That's an aquarium plant that will carpet the bottom, but you need high CO2, high lighting. I've tried it a couple of times without CO2 and it just dies every time. So what I'm doing, taking the plants out, taking the substrate out. This is one of my big Echinodorus plants. It's like a sword plant, but it's called an Echinodorus Argentine, something like that. And that's the plant that grows above the water. Taking all the plants out, all the rocks, all the wood. And when you start messing with the substrate, it really gets the tank looking dirty. and I already netted the fish out, so I could just go mad sweeping up all the gravel. The fish run into the bucket, I'll show you that in a sec, but just getting all the gravel out, I hate doing it. I hate getting the gravel out. It's just such a mess and it drips everywhere. It's one of the biggest things to do. But this is only a small tank, you know, it's not as big as the 300 litre tank I have. It's just like a 60 litre 3-foot tank. So I thought, you know, it'll only take a couple of hours, bit of hard work. It's just a mess more than anything, you know. Dirty water, I got carpet, so I'm just trying not to make a mess. Yeah, so most of the stones are out now, emptying the water, just so I can see really what stones are left, because I can't even see through the water, it's that dirty. And, you know, that's what happens with substrate. It just builds up a lot of dirt and things in the substrate, so whenever you disturb the substrate, especially if it's deep, you're always going to get a real big mess. So this is what the room currently looks like. Buckets everywhere, towels everywhere, and this is the tank. I'm not going to get the dirt out, I'm going to leave the dirt in the bottom. There's not that much, and it's not fish waste, it's actually like dirt from the gravel. I got the pothos in the bucket, I got the fish in the bucket, I got the Echinodorus in the bucket. Everything's in there with the water, and then I've got the old substrate, because I always keep the substrate. Got the old substrate, got the new substrate. I'm going to be putting that in. I haven't told you that yet, but I'm going to be putting this substrate in. It's the same substrate that I used in all the other tanks, including my larger tank. Always use the same substrate. I'll link to it in the description. And since I'm changing the substrate and, you know, getting this tank looking good, I've took a razor blade to the walls of the aquarium, because it is covered in algae. And the thing is, with this room that this tank is in, there's a big window behind it which doesn't help with algae. Even though the blinds are closed, you know, the window does not help with algae, which I think is why the Replanting's carpet plant in the old tank did so well, which is why I want to carpet again, because it just seems to do well in this tank. So I'm just putting the new substrate in now. Now, because I left some of the old water in the tank, and it had all that dirt in from the gravel before, putting the fish in there, you know, the water's going to be toxic, even if it's only, you know, a little bit of water compared to the full amount of the tank. So I'm putting all new water in now, and I'm going to drain it again and then fill it again, just to make sure the water is nice and clean for the fish. So I filled it up, mixed all that dirty water in with new water. I'm going to drain it again and then top it up. It's just to make sure, because when you stir the substrate up, it releases all sorts of chemicals and stuff. So be sure just to drain it and refill it. You know, it takes a while, but it's good to do, just to be on the safe side, especially if you get like gas pockets that have been trapped. So what I did with this is I filled the bath up, put in the bathroom, and then just pumped the water in and out, which is basically how I do water changes on my larger tank, but I use the sink. I connect the hose to the sink. So I drain the water out into the sink, and then from the bath that I filled up, straight back into the tank. Really easy, doesn't require me to lift any buckets, and mainly saves the carpet from water being dripped around everywhere. Buckets always splash. So now we've got some crystal clear water. Sort of crystal clear. It's still a bit cloudy, but I'm not running the pump yet. So this is the new substrate, as you can see, all in there now. The substrate's not new itself, it's been in my shed for a long time, because I always keep substrate. So I knew I had it in the shed, so I just got it back out, put it in. Still got some algae on the glass, but you know, can't spend hours just scraping algae off. So the foundation is put in, the hard work's done, and now it's just making it look nice, putting the plants and the fish back in. The substrate matches the carpet. I only just realised that afterwards, but yeah, so it looks nice. I'm happy with it. Pothos goes back in. To be fair, this tank will probably look nice with just the pothos. It'll look really clean. So now, see the yellow balls on top of the substrate? That's from root tabs. The root tabs contain fertiliser, which are the little yellow balls, and because I've messed about with the substrate, the dissolved root tabs have let the yellow balls come up, and I just poke them back in with my finger once I'm done. Just getting all the bits out of the water. The pothos looks really good. You know, I really like my pothos. I've done a video about pothos, removing the nitrates. People keep asking me as well how I attach the pothos to the edge, to the corner of the tank. People think that I use some sort of special holders, but it's just, all it is a piece of airline tubing, cable tied together to make a loop, and some suckers. I just put the pothos in the ring, the airline tubing ring, and I use the suckers to make sure the ring doesn't lift up out of the water. I'm just putting the Echinodorus back in. Echinodorus Argentine, something like that. You know, I can't pronounce these long words. These grow really well. Can't complain about these at all. I explained about them in my last video as well, just saying, you know, it took a long time for me to get them to grow out the water like this, but if you do some research, you know, anyone can do it. I'm really happy with them though, they keep growing. They keep doing really well. Topping the water back up, I've put my water sprite in the top left. Also made another ring out of airline tubing and the cable tie, and that's where I put my water sprite. Just keep it in that corner so the filter doesn't chop it up. And I've added the 3 Echinodorus in. You can see on the left, on the little bit of slate, is some Subwassertang. I think that's how you pronounce it, just by where my finger was then. Subwassertang. And I was watching one of Corey's videos, Corey from Aquarium Co-op. He did some sort of aquarium shop tour in, I think, China. And basically in this video, this bloke's just got a Subwassertang growing in every tank, and it's basically freshwater seaweed. It's like the closest thing to seaweed, and it just grows crazy. The way this bloke had it in his tank, it was just like masses of this green plant. So I bought a little bit off eBay, tied it to a slate. I'm going to see what happens to it. But that's not the idea for the carpet. I just want to see what this plant does. Adding the fish back in now. I've got the filter running. the temperatures match. 20 neon tetras, that's what I had. And not an issue at all. These fish have done really well since I had them, and they're really tame too. And by tame I mean when I walk into the room or when I put my face up against the glass to have a good look at the tank, they come towards me, all 20 of them just looking straight at me rather than hiding. So I call that tame. It's obviously because they know I'm going to feed them, or they think I'm going to feed them. Most of the time when I'm looking at the tank I'm about to feed them, so they're not wrong. But yeah, they're quite tame. So the room's all clean now. That was, you know, one of the biggest jobs, cleaning up the mess I made. So you can just see how nice and clean the room is, and I just want the tank to reflect that. You know, I don't want this nice room with my computer and everything, and then a tank that's just full of algae and, you know, just a mess of a tank. Which is partly why I took down the blackwater. I just wanted the tank to reflect the room and to look nice in the office. So the neon tetras are feeling a bit sorry for themselves, and to be fair, there's not much hiding places for them at the moment. They've just been put from one place to the other, and the only thing they have to hide in are the pothos roots. They should be alright. They should settle down pretty easily. But one thing I wanted to mention as well was, with this black substrate, this dark substrate, the neon tetras come out so much better. Their colours come out so much better than the previous substrate I had in here. I just really like the substrate. It's very much like sand, and I'll leave links in the description for the substrate. But basically it's just a cheap one from a local chain called Pets at Home in England, but you can also buy similar stuff. I've also bought one called Petex, it's Roman Petex gravel, on Amazon, and it's pretty much the same thing. And also the Denali black aquarium gravel, but it's really expensive. I'll leave links in the description for all of those products. So the plan for this tank, because obviously, you know, it looks nice but it is bare, and I do like a lot of plants. So the plan, I've got the right substrate in there, I've got some good lighting, I've got that window for extra sunlight, got a lot of algae that's going to grow. So with these carpet plants I'm going to use pygmy chain swords. Now the reason I meant the light was going to come through and create algae, if I've got a load of pygmy chain swords creating a carpet, it's going to use up all the nutrients and all that sunlight and all the light that I have above it that's on the timer. It's going to use all the nutrients and all that to grow a real nice carpet, and I shouldn't have any algae. And the reason I think that is because, like I said, the tank that I had before had that lovely S-Repens carpet, not a spot of algae, beautiful. I just want to do the same thing again, but with a different plant, to create a carpet. So I'm just feeding the fish here. Bought a load of new fish food, one of them being this Sea Chem tropical fish flakes. So yeah, pygmy chain swords. I basically bought about 60. I'm going to be putting 30 in the downstairs aquarium and 30 in this aquarium. The next video I release will be me planting all these pygmy chain swords, and they're very tiny, but once I get all 30 of them in here and they grow properly, each one is going to send off runners, and it should just be an overgrown carpet of pygmy chain swords. And it's very low maintenance plant, which is why I'm doing it as well. No CO2, nothing like that. Very basic plant, it should look really good. But yeah, these fish are doing very well, back to their old selves. So the next video, yeah, will be me planting the chain swords, and I'll be updating on that, seeing how the carpet goes. You know, it might be a complete failure. You know, they might just all die. I've had pygmy chain swords before, but I've never really tried to make a carpet with them, like a proper carpet. So yeah, that'll be fun. So if you want to see that video of how this tank turns out, then please subscribe and like my video if you could, and let me know what you think. I'm always interested and always reply to everybody's comments, well, most people's comments. So thank you for watching.